Welcome everyone to AARP Wyoming's Video Voter Guide Series for 2024. I'm Tom Laycock with AARP Wyoming, and today we're joined by Thomas Lear, who's running for the Wyoming Legislature in House District 12, located between I-25 and South Greeley Highway in Souther Laramie County. AARP has a proud 40-year history of nonpartisan voter engagement and does not endorse or oppose candidates, nor does AARP make political contributions to campaigns or candidates at any level. Instead, we ask questions so our AARP members understand where the candidates stand on important issues and can make their own decisions on election day. Today, we'll give Mr. Lear 3 questions, allowing for a 1-minute and 30-second response to each. Then, we'll give Mr. Lear 2 minutes to make his pitch to the voters of House District 12. So let's get started with the questions. The first one. Over the last 2 years, the Wyoming Legislature has made providing property tax relief for its citizens a priority. In your view, what's the most effective way to provide relief while balancing revenue needs for our schools, counties, and other entities that rely on property tax to maintain stable funding?
Well, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. So I believe that the most effective way to address this concern is to separate residential property taxes from commercial and agricultural. This is a proposed amendment that I know the legislature is considering currently, but this would allow the state to lower property taxes for residents across the state and to be able to recapture the lost revenues through possibly raising property taxes on commercial and agricultural properties. But I also believe this is tied directly to members of AARP and being able to keep them in their homes, because if you can't afford your home, then of course you're not going to be able to stay in your home. So I think this would be the most effective way to address this issue in Wyoming.
Our second question for today. Wyoming's population of those aged 60 and over grew by 47% from 2010 to 2020, while the state's entire population grew just 2%. We know 64% of all nursing home beds in Wyoming are paid for right now by the state Medicaid program. What do you see as the greatest barrier to helping our older adults age in their homes and communities, and what solutions would you propose?
Well, so this is an issue that affects my family and I directly. All 3 of my parents, my father, my stepfather, and my mother are retired now. So I actually spoke with them about this question and asked for their feedback. And the first thing that they talked about was assistance with work around the home, which we have had programs like this in the past. And I believe there is a proposed PACE Light program that would address some of these concerns. But allowing retired Wyomingites to be able to stay in their home by picking up the trash, doing yard work, maintenance, those types of things are very important. Mobility, I know, is one of the top concerns for Wyomingites, retired Wyomingites, and providing rides, to day activities or to medical appointments, the like, would allow seniors to stay in their home even longer. And then finally, I would address fraud concerns, which I know is another top concern of AARP members, as fraud has obviously grown a lot in recent years, and seniors are usually among the most targeted.
Thank you. Our third and final question for today. Emergency medical services are not considered an essential service in Wyoming, and in some areas, ambulance services do not have a sustainable funding source. Over the last 10 years, Wyoming has seen 16 emergency medical service providers in the state fold or consolidate with another service. What solutions would you offer for ensuring access to ambulance services?
Well, I have to say that this is a really difficult question. Unfortunately, like the question states, it's not an essential service, and I believe it should be. Nobody thinks about having to ride or utilize an ambulance until the need arises. And the idea that one is unavailable to you, or an hour, hour and a half away when you need it most, is very scary. So I believe, honestly, the answer lies at the state level. The legislature needs to address this to ensure that it is an essential service and that it's fully funded. Everybody in our state deserves emergency medical services when they need it most. And obviously, taxes are very important to Wyomingites, but I believe that most Wyomingites would agree that this is a service that they would need and should be available to them in a time of an emergency.
Well, thank you. Now let's close today by offering you 2 minutes to explain why you believe you're the best person to represent House District 12.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I really do appreciate this opportunity. So the reason I was excited to speak with the members of AARP is because one of the tenets of my campaign is affordable housing. And that is a problem for most Wyomingites at this point, but especially older Wyomingites. Remaining in your home as long as possible, as I said earlier, it requires being able to afford your home. And so something I would love to do once I am elected is to push for the separation of residential from commercial and agricultural property taxes. But also, I have grown up, I've lived in Cheyenne for the majority of my life. I grew up on the south side of the city. I've lived in HD 12 for 8 years, and I cared deeply about the district. I cared deeply about HD 12 and Cheyenne. And I believe that our politics in Wyoming have taken a wrong turn. The reason I've decided to run is because I've recently been married and had my first child, and I care about our future. And I believe that we need to start talking to each other again. Unfortunately, we do a lot of yelling and name calling, and we don't do a lot of getting things done. And I would like to be a part of the solution that allows us to come together and fix the problems that we see before us and ensure that Wyoming remains strong and successful for our children and our grandchildren. And that's only going to happen if we can talk to each other. The divisive politics of the last 8, 12 years need to stop, and I hope to be a part of that solution.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lear, for your time today, and thank you to our viewers for joining in this video voter guide. We encourage you to keep checking Cowboy State Daily and AARP Wyoming's Facebook pages for more video voter guides in the days to come.